All right, I'm going to talk about addiction and compulsion, which is obviously one of my favorite topics, and how to turn it into passion and purpose and creativity and athleticism. So most men and women, but I speak to the men, talk about addiction as if it's all a behavioral modification issue. So they focus on the porn or the drugs or the drinking or the food. And on some level, yes, you do need to modify some behavior to reprogram the brain. I'm not against that. But behavior is never the root. My theory is that addiction is what happens when energy gets stuck on what's familiar because you haven't guided it anywhere conscious or loving. So it goes to what feels safe. You want consciousness and love to feel safe, but until you keep reintroducing it and making those neural pathways safe, it'll go to behaviors that feel familiar. So what I mean by that is this: your nervous system learns very early on what feels familiar, and it confuses familiar with safe. So if pressure or shame or intensity or disassociation were the emotional climate you grew up in, then your body learned that that's home, even when that's full-on suffering. So when life starts going really well, like there's peace or connection or success or intimacy, something inside of you tightens because it doesn't trust the calm and the peace and the love yet. So energy looks for an outlet. I'm really talking about my own experience here. It looks for a habit or an addiction to bring it back to a familiar, familiar emotional state. And that's essentially just trauma bonding with your family of origin and the developmental trauma that you were born into. And so this is where I think a lot of addiction approaches fail. They try to fix the behavior instead of listening to what the behavior is regulating. And for most of my adult life, I tried modification through rules that started in the mind. But in the long term, those rules never really worked. White knuckling never worked. Trying to be a good boy instead of a bad boy never really worked. Because that just puts me back into an adolescent nervous system state, which is what I call the comply or defy state. So the only thing that actually worked for me was learning how to feel into the energetic root of my addictions and then introduce that raw energy to a safe, higher consciousness and unconditional love. Whether you want to say that that love and consciousness comes from an inner power or a higher power, it doesn't really matter. So having said that, sometimes commitments and contracts with the universe are helpful. Like, I'm going to quit drinking on February 4th. That was my dad's 100th birthday. But only when they come from alignment instead of fear and trying to be a good boy. I don't think you loosen addiction by trying to become good instead of bad. You loosen it by guiding yourself with what I call Godfidence, or just inner confidence, instead of being reactive. If you learn to lead your energy instead of fighting it, you're going to overcome the addiction. So that might be a little bit of an oversimplification, but that's basically 3 decades of addiction work synthesized. Try that out and let me know how it goes. And for more on turning addiction and compulsion into passion and purpose, DM me and I'll send you an application to my men's coaching program. I have a couple cool ones: addict to artist, addict to athlete, but they're all basically about the same theme. And everyone's addicted to something, even if it's thought patterns or emotional patterns. So let me know how that thought process works out for you.